Hi guys, I hope you're all good. So this is my annotations or a video just to help you with your own annotations on The Farmer's Bride. I realised the link that I showed you, I think it was just a connection to Porphyria's Lover. I'm not actually sure if there's a analysis of it with Mr. Bruff based on The Farmer's Bride, so I thought I'd just share with you my notes, and hopefully that's going to help you. So we've got to think first of all, what can we gain and what connections can we already make. So The Farmer's Bride for me is the best comparison with Porphyria's Lover. That's just my opinion. There's many other poems you could compare it with. I would personally, if this came up in the exam, I compare it with Porphyria's Lover and vice versa. So we already see the similarities between the poems just based on the title. So you get the possessive apostrophe here, the farmer's bride, suggesting that there's going to be, once again, the themes of obsession and control. So it's obvious that through the possessive apostrophe, that obviously the farmer believes that this bride, this person is belongs to them. They're possessive over it. Okay, we can see from the dates as well. It's once again the Victorian era, a little bit later, written a little bit later than Porphyria's Lover, but still the Victorian era, meaning that it was once again a time of strict control, strict law, especially on female oppression, meaning that females had to be confined to certain rules and act a certain way within society. Especially then, a female would be a respectable or respected female would have to marry into a relationship which they are not necessarily wanting to be a part of. They wouldn't have much choice in the matter. If you've read through the poem, the tone, I'll tell you, is just like Porphyria's Lover. It is dark, it is threatening, although there is an element of rebelliousness, which is completely contrasted to Porphyria's Lover, where the female in Porphyria's Lover is quite naive. She is a stereotypical female in Porphyria's Lover because she's got that little neck, she's got the beauty about her, kind of the seductiveness that about her, and the sexuality that would have been expected of a female back in the Victorian era. So in this poem, the same way in Porphyria's Lover, it is written from a male perspective. However, it enlightens or looks at a female perspective a little bit more in how females react or can negatively react to male oppression, to male control. So Charlotte Mew, you could argue, because she's a female, and Robert Browning, who wrote Porphyria's Lover, he's a male. So potentially Charlotte Mew, because she was a female, she wanted to give voice to female oppression through her poem. Okay, I don't know if you want to get that note down. Charlotte Mew, as you can even see from the picture, it's quite evident that she doesn't necessarily have these stereotypical feminine qualities that you would expect of a Victorian lady. She looks like she's actually wearing a suit. Now, you can say that her character, I've taught you this word before, but I'll tell you it again. She's, as a poet, she is obviously unorthodox. Which means that she is not a typical woman of her time. You can also use words of how she's atypical or how she is just not typical female of her time if you struggle using unorthodox into a sentence. Now, she went through quite a lot herself. Now, this is really important. Not all poems have a lot to write about for AO3, like the writer's background. However, for this specific poem, there's a lot of theories that you can develop by knowing a little bit about Charlotte Mew. So please take some notes as I say the following. So she lived through World War One, and she lived through the female suffragettes because it was a little bit later than Porphyria's Lover. So therefore, she lived at a time, if you remember Unspectacle, she lived at a time where there was a slow change or challenge, should I say, with the old ways of doing things. For example, World War One and the suffragettes, it kind of highlighted kind of the oppression of those who were under power or were controlled by power, and she particularly believed actually to be a homosexual, believed to be someone who liked females instead of men. She wanted to show how females living through this type of era of oppression would feel. Homosexuality, by the way, during this time period was seen as illegal, or it was seen as an illness, which is a bit ridiculous. She was known herself, Charlotte Mew, as what they used to call a dandy. Dandies were basically ladies who would happily wear a suit, just like she is here, which would be very, very atypical, unorthodox of females at the time. Okay, so the whole poem, The Farmer's Bride, you could say it's symbolic of all women in society. It's a microcosm, if you will, of females in society. Okay, we're going to jump right into the analysis of the poem. Okay, so 3 summers since I chose a maid too young maybe. So it's clear that it's written from a male perspective, the same way Porphyria's lover is written from a male's perspective. Okay, but the female here reacts a lot differently to how Porphyria's lover, as I said, was a bit more submissive, allowed the man to take control, whereas this female does something quite different. We'll see. So 3 summers since I chose a maid. So this is him obviously remembering 3 summers ago when they were chosen to marry one another. This opening, I linked it to Walking Away. If you remember, it says, I think it's 15 years ago, almost to the day. It suggests the same purpose. It's clearly the narrator here is missing something in the past. It was a memorable moment to him. Maybe it's because time has been so slow since then. It's, you know, he's remembered the last kind of happy moment, or the moment he thought he'd finally have a chance to kind of woo her and seduce her. So he admits, which is a bit disturbing, that she was too young maybe. The caesura here might suggest that he stops to think about it, but then he still continues, suggesting that he's not really bothered, or he's willing to overlook the fact that she is too young. The same way, at the time, a lot of young females, age 11, 12, 13, would be married and would have to go through pregnancy. So it was quite typical at the time. Now, there's lots of, just like Porphyria's lover, there is quite a bit of sexual imagery. So let me just manage to dry out that pen. So I'm going to use yellow this time, just because I dried out my orange highlighter. So at harvest time, then bide and woo. Okay, so she said that... He said that he's married or, went to marry this female 3 summers ago, so 3 years ago, and maybe she was too young. But more's to do at harvest time than bide and woo. So he says, although he's clearly bothered about this event, he kind of overlooks her and prioritises his work over wanting to be with her. Okay, so it's suggested that this narrator is obviously very unromantic, does not treat her with utmost importance, whereas in contrast, Porphyria's lover, he did have time for her, almost too much time, obviously, and he wanted her to be absolutely there at every single waking hour of the day. So you could contrast it a little bit, because you've got him, this narrator, he's clearly prioritizing the idea of harvest, him having to, be subservient to his farmer duties. Now, harvest, if we were going to look at that and analyse this, we could first comment on the fact that he prioritises, the work instead of kind of romantically handing himself over to her. However, if we want to link this a little bit more sexually, we could link the fact that there's a sexual nature about harvesting. Okay, so it's kind of the same way that when you harvest fields as a farmer, you are making the field ready to be fertilized and to grow new things. We could link this to sexual nature, him wanting to harvest his maid as such. So he's obviously has a desire to sexually pursue her. He sees her only as kind of like a work duty, only as like another thing alongside his work, nothing important. Okay. Now, when us was wed, she turned afraid of love and me and all things human. Like the shut of a winter's day. So it shows that obviously she's cold. So you could connect this pathetic fallacy to the idea that she is very cold to him, which is complete contrast to Porphyria's lover. Because in Porphyria's lover, you have the female shut out the cold and the storm, if you remember. Whereas here, like the shut of a winter's day, it shows that she is, she's not as attentive. She doesn't want to be there. She has no desire to be with him. Now, the simile, like Shut of Winter's Day, it is a big contrast, kind of the Porphyria's lover poem. And it also shows how unhappy and how sad their relationship is, how miserable their relationship is. Her smile went out, and 'twasn't a woman, more like a frightened fay, which is an animal. One night in the fall, she runned away. So this female is running away. She doesn't want to be with him. She doesn't want to be married to him, which could link to the fact that Charlotte Mew, maybe her own personal kind of account of the way that she didn't want to be with a man. She actually made a pact with her sister never to marry a man. Personally, Charlotte Mew did. So potentially she could be connecting her own experiences to this female who is not wanting to marry. More like a little frightened fay. Little, the idea of little. Do you remember what poem kept repeating little? That's the one that I'm trying to get you to compare it with right now. So Porphyria's lover, there's the little neck. This one's more like a little frightened fay. A way to contrast that is Porphyria's lover does it in more of a kind of murderous kind of way, whereas this is almost like he's treating this female like something to hunt, like a frightened fay. One night in the fall, she runned away. So in the fall is capitalised because it's autumn. So she made a decision, it wasn't good, and the fall maybe could be symbolic to the way that their relationship is kind of decayed. It started to turn plain, boring, negative. It's been brought to an end, okay? The same way that the summer begins and the summer ends through fall, okay? Out among the sheep, her be, they said. So she's now choosing to run away, and she's chosen to run away for some reason or another, chosen to run away in a sheep field. So she's running out among the sheep. It could show the use of nature, the nature imagery of frightened like a little fay, fall, among the sheep, winter. Yeah, so all of this nature imagery, I'll highlight it here. No. It could symbolise her need for freedom, her need for non-conformity, wanting to just be a part of nature, not confined with rules, the strict rules of society at the time. It could show how innocent her nature was as well. So, out among the sheep her be, they said. So, obviously, it's not just one person, contrast to Porphyria's lover, where there's just one person trying to kind of hunt down the female. Here we have multiple people. So, many people are connected with the idea of getting this female back to her farmer as such. Okay. Charlotte Mew could be showing the power and the kind of the oppressive but controlling and forceful nature that females had to kind of submit to, otherwise they would be almost hunted. Out among the sheep her be, they said. She probably had been abed, but sure enough she wasn't there, lying awake with her wide brow stare. So it shows that even though she's trying to sleep, she should be sleeping in her bed, but she's not. She's lying awake with her stare. Shows that she's sleepless, and that she's quite unhappy. Obviously, she can't get any rest. Something's keeping her awake. So over 7 acre field and up along across the down, we chased her. So once again, like I said here, like they said, there's the idea of they, the collectives. Collective pronoun, the they and we. We chased her. It makes it almost seem exciting as well. Through the asyndetic listing, which I'm just going to put here. Asyndetic list. Through this asyndetic list, it almost makes it seem like we chased her flying like a hare before our lanterns. Makes it seem like it's almost like a game to him. Yeah, we chased her flying like a hare, once again comparing the same way down here, frightened fae, flying like a hare, using loads of small animals as an example. Hare is a bird. So the simile, she's small, she's a victim, she's almost insignificant. The same way little is used up here, and it's quite comparable to Porphyria's lover, seeing them as being feeble, helpless things. Before our lanterns almost sounds like a witch-like hunt. It sounds like something where they're almost demonizing her, like the audacity or the cheek of her, a female, to run away from her master, kind of mocking her there to say that she's almost witch-like because she's turning herself away from her duties to kind of, bed with him. Before our lanterns to Churchtown. Massive irony there. They're going to the area of church, to the area of religion. Potentially, Charlotte Mew could be criticising the religious values at the time to say, if we're teaching each other to respect and honour Father and Lord, why is it that there's certain situations, depending on your gender, which would mean that you don't earn that respect? To Churchtown, all in shiver and a scare, we caught her, fetched her home at last, and turned the key upon her fast. Okay, so they're locking her out. All right, there's once again, same with Porphyria's lover, right at the beginning, if you remember, there was sibilance. It's creating that sinister tone. Yeah, she's all in a shiver and a scare, we caught her. So she's shivering, she's scared. Makes her seem really female and weak. We fetched her, okay? Kind of this animal imagery, which isn't only used here, it's also used here, and it's used with fae. So you could make a note on that. Like a hunt. Her home at last. Her home. Which is quite ironic because she doesn't feel like it is home. The same way Porphyria's lover, actually. He said that she wanted this. She wanted me to kill her. That's what in Porphyria's lover, the narrator says. Here it's kind of similar because he's saying to her, this is your home. But of course, home is subjective. Is where you feel a sense of belonging. So decided for her. She does the work about the house as well as most, but like a mouse, animal imagery, once again, timid kind of animal, something that's insignificant, often forgotten about, seen and not heard kind of idea. You've got to question, why is she so quiet? Is it because she's been brought through awful amount of oppression, abuse of the time during this type of era? Okay. Happy enough to chat and play with birds and rabbits and such as they, so long as menfolk keep away. So she's happy to be with the animals, she's happy to be with nature, but she's very, very critical and scared, rightfully so, because he sounds like not the nicest man. She's very scared to be around human beings of her alike. It could be Charlotte Mew's own connection with society in the way that she didn't like, she preferred being at one with nature, where she was free and was able to kind of be herself, as she was seen as someone who was, against the stereotype, being potentially homosexual. Not near, her eyes beseeched. When one of us comes within reach, the women say that beasts in stall look round like children at her call. I've hardly heard her speak at all. The stall call all these rhyming, or there are rhyming couplets. It kind of shows like the rhyme makes it sound like it's almost a mockery. There's a lack of serious tone within the rhyme, which makes it kind of reflects the same way that this narrator, the speaker, is clearly not taking his poor treatment of his own wife very seriously. Doesn't really care about her. Okay. Let's just try to look at some of my notes here. So we could look at the structure. There's an imbalance, the same way in Porphyria's lover. There was a big block verse, but a difference is that there is actual stanzas. Although I've written all over it, there is a stanza there, stanza, I think on the other side. So there are stanzas, which is a difference to this and Porphyria's lover. However, there's an imbalance. So stanzas are various length, could show how disturbed and how unpredictable, once again, nature is. Could show her desperately trying to break away from the rule and the restrictions of society. Yeah, so the verses could maybe connote how like society is trying to organize her, trying to control her, but she's being the irregular lines, the one that's seen as, you know, abnormal because she wants to break away from something which is so controlling. Okay. I haven't actually annotated this, but let's have a go. Shy as a leveret, swift as he, straight and slight as a young larch tree, sweet as the first wild violet she, to her wild self, but what to me? The short days shorten and the oaks are brown, the blue smoke rises to the glow-grey sky, one leaf in the still air falls slowly down, a magpie spotted feathers lie. On the black earth spread white with rime, the berries redden up to the Christmas time. What's Christmas time without there be some other in the house than we? So it's almost like the narrator is starting to, particularly here, and I think that, yeah, it's almost, there's questions. So it's like the man is now speaking directly to the female. Okay, so speaking to female. Obviously, because there is no response, you literally see no dialogue afterwards, of course. It suggests power, potentially. Power connoted by that rhetorical question. Shy as a leveret, once again, you've got similes, swift as he, maybe to show that men and female should be equal. Maybe that is Charlotte Mew, or Mew trying to connote that. Straight and slight as a young larch tree, sweet as the first wild violet she. So it's kind of like gross. They seem like almost like compliments, but the fact that he keeps fetching her and then bringing her back, and he admits that she's sweet as the first wild violet she. It's like almost predatorial. Same way in Porphyria's Lover, the way he kind of sees her as something which is, you know, desirable, but not in a romantic way. The short days shorten and the oaks are brown. So it shows maybe there's some sort of time that's coming nearer to something that's going to happen. The blue smoke rises to the low grey sky. One leaf in the still air falls slowly down. It's potential. There's a potential suggestion here. Sweet as the first wild violet she. It could suggest the sweetness. Could suggest her being ripe, and therefore she is still a virgin. And maybe the fact that the short days are shortening, it could be leading up to, you know, them sleeping together for the first time. The short days shorten, the oak days are brown, the blue smoke rises to the low grey sky. So there's obviously this pathetic fallacy of negative imagery. Pathetic fallacy connotes quite a depressing kind of mood. One leaf in the still air falls slowly down. A magpie spotted feathers lie on the black earth, spread white with rime, and berries redden up to the Christmas time. What's Christmas time without there be some other in the house than we? Christmas time, as you know from A Christmas Carol, it's supposed to be a time of happiness. And the idea of family, and he's obviously has a different opinion to her. We once again don't hear her voice, therefore suggesting that she has no power or no opinion in the matter. He's decided that they are family and that is her home and they need to enjoy Christmas time together. There's a sense of irony as well, using Christmas time. As you would know from A Christmas Carol, the idea of this being a happy time where everyone is coming together, whereas she wants to be very much apart from him. Irony, she wants to be apart. To be apart. Finally, last stanza. So she sleeps up in the attic there, alone, poor maid. He says poor maid, but I don't believe it. I'm not convinced. She sleeps up in the attic as well, suggesting that she's kind of like locked away. Yeah, she's like upstairs for kind of, you know, whenever he needs her. Alone, poor maid, 'tis but a stare betwixt us. Oh my God, the down, the soft young down of her. The brown of her eyes, her hair. Obsession of hair as well, thinking about Porphyria's Lover. Once again, the same way in Porphyria's Lover, they're more of a obsession on the actual appearance. not feeling. The repetition could connote his obsession. Yeah. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions or there's something that I didn't cover within that, or if there's any theories or annotations you want to make and you just want to run them through by me. You are more than welcome. Thank you. Bye.